What's going on, everyone? My name is Alex. If you don't already know, if you're new to the channel, welcome and thanks for checking out this new video. So first off, if you guys watched my last video, I did mention that I'd be going to the track, and I did get back from the track this past Wednesday. I went down to Palm Beach International Raceway for a track night, and unfortunately the rain kind of ruined that. I got about 4, maybe 5 laps during my first session, and then the skies opened up, pouring rain, thunder, lightning, so they canceled the rest of the event. So a little disappointing, but regardless, I had a fun trip going down there. But I did want to get some good track footage for you guys, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So if you can't already tell by the title of the video, what I'd like to talk about today, which I think would benefit not only my current viewers, but anybody else that may stumble across this video, is what is the best kind of entry-level sports car for under $10,000. And this can be applied to both a car that you're going to use either every day, just on the weekends for pleasure driving, or something that you may want to get into some track driving with. So I know this may sound a little biased, but I've had experiences with multiple cars, and 2 of the cars that I would recommend for under $10,000 for an entry-level type sports car or track car would be the Honda S2000 and the Nissan 350Z. Again, even though you may think it's a little biased, I obviously own both of them, fortunately, so I can give you an opinion from owning and driving both of these cars. And another car that I would recommend in this price range would be a Mazda Miata. I can't really say too much on them as I've never driven one or owned them, but from talking to people and being at track days, they do seem like a great car, similar to the S2000. It's lightweight and handles very well. So I would recommend that car as well, but like I said, I just can't give a good opinion on that car since I've never even driven one. Now, while the Z is my track slash fun slash weekend car, whatever you like to call it, the S2000, I've personally never driven it on the track, but I think I can give kind of a good opinion of how the car drives, its characteristics, and why I think that it's a great car if you want something pretty affordable and want to get into the sports car type scene and possibly some track driving. With the Z, these cars have been under $10,000 for a little bit now, especially the older ones. This is the HR, so 07 and 08. These are now, you can find these for 10 and even a little bit less. If you look around, you just want to make sure that it's been kept in good condition. You may have one, or you may find one with a little bit higher mileage, but that just comes with the territory of getting a car for under $10,000, especially an entry-level sports car. The S2000, on the other hand, they really hold their value, and they're just starting to reach that point where they're kind of affordable for me and you to go out and buy, in that price range, like I said, of $10,000 or less. And I was actually fortunate enough to get this car for under $10,000. For 10 grand on both these cars, you're probably looking at over 100,000 miles, probably a little bit more with the S2000, like I said, since they are holding their value. But the drivetrain on both of these cars is pretty reliable if you maintain them, keep up to date with all the, oil changes, all that stuff. So just look for a car that has been well maintained, has only maybe had a couple owners, and at least, something that but you can buy with a peace of mind that it's going to last you for a little while. So stock for stock, both of these cars, in terms of speed and acceleration, or how fast they are, they're pretty much the same. The HRZ is a little bit faster than the S2000 stock for stock, but for argument's sake, they're about the same. But that being said, they have completely different driving characteristics. The Z has about 60 more horsepower than S2000. The Z also weighs more than the S2000, and you have a V6 compared to a 4-cylinder. So with the Z being a V6, it's obviously going to have better low-end power. You're not going to have to really wring the car out and rev the car to the moon to get the power and, to get acceleration and, the performance that you want. I mean, don't get me wrong, this car loves to be revved out, and I think it drives actually smoother, shifts smoother the harder you drive it. But for around town, if you're looking for a car that you're just going to cruise around with, on nice days and the weekends, this car you can kind of putz around a little bit more and still have the low-end power. This also has a lot longer gear ratio, so you won't have to shift as much compared to the S2000. So the S2000, on the other hand, being the 4-cylinder, being a little underpowered compared to the Z, you really have to rev this car out. The AP2 has an 8,000 RPM rev line, and you pretty much have to rev it past 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs to really get going and really see the performance of the car. Also, with that being said, you're going to be shifting a lot more. The gears are a lot closer together, so it's going to be a lot of back and forth shifting. And it's a little bit more of, I would say, even a driving experience, because it's going to be revving out quicker and you're going to have to be shifting quicker. So while I'm comparing these two cars, and these are my suggestions for great entry-level sports cars for under $10,000, there are other options, and there are even more options if you want to spend a little bit more money. But I did want to focus on these two cars since I own both, I obviously drive both, so I think I can give you a good opinion on the different characteristics of each. And another thing that I want to add is that both of these cars are modified. The Z is, in my book, kind of, heavily modified. Other than forced induction, it has pretty much every part that you can buy, and somehow I'm still finding more stuff to buy for it. But anyway, this car is pretty heavily modified. However, for the intent of this video is to show you that, or at least to give my opinion, that both of these cars in stock form, no aftermarket parts, are great cars to learn how to drive a sports car, especially if you want to get on the track and test the limits of the car. You don't need to do anything to these cars. Are either of them the fastest car in the world? Obviously not. But to learn, driving characteristics of each car, to better yourself as a driver, you don't need to have a highly modified vehicle. Even the Z, as long as I've owned it, and factoring in the track days that I've done with it, I'm still not able to outdrive the car in terms of the performance, power, and all that stuff that it has. So I think you buy either one of these cars in stock form, go out to the track, go out on the weekend, go to some canyon roads, wherever you may be, and just enjoy it for what the car is. Now in terms of practicality, if you want to drive this car every day, or you're going to be driving it frequently, even though they're both two-seaters with limited space and all that, they're only two-seaters, two doors, they're both impractical cars, but I would say the Z is slightly more practical, if you can call it that. I've never really used practical and the Z in the same sentence before, but in comparing these two cars, I would say the Z is more practical. Just because it has a little bit more room in the cabin, just a little bit more room to move around, it has a little bit more storage space, and I do think the hatch area or the trunk area is a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit more conducive to everyday errands, grocery shopping, all that stuff, and just has a little bit more space to put your stuff. I'm sure a lot of you may have some other recommendations for some awesome entry-level sports cars. Obviously, it depends on your budget, but I think 10 grand is kind of a good point these days, for a decent car and something that has a little bit of a performance that you can get and drive around for fun, like I said, or take it to the track. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, these are just my opinions based on what I've owned, what I've driven. Obviously, some of you have some other suggestions as well. If you want to expand your price range a little bit, there's obviously the Scion FRS, the 370Z, and there's other cars as well, in a higher price range that are just as good, if not better, than these two cars. So let me know what your opinions are. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Is there any other cars that you would recommend for this price range to kind of start out getting into performance driving, track driving, and just having a car that's performance oriented? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, thanks to everybody for supporting my channel, viewing my videos. I really appreciate it, and the channel would be nothing without any of you. So thanks again for watching. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, and I'll see you next time.